How have I been at this for nearly 5 years and never gotten the chance to properly dig into Outrun? I've looked at tons of games that were inspired by Outrun, and I got to really briefly talk about the Mark III port of Outrun, but I haven't gotten into the nitty-gritty of it. The story of Outrun really starts with Hang On. This motorcycle racing game was Sega's first game to use their super scaler technology, hardware that allowed for a large number of sprites to be quickly and smoothly scaled up and down. Other games had done similar things before it, but nobody had done it this perfectly. Hang On's arcade cabinet also featured a vehicle that you could pretend to ride on. Hang On was a big hit, and it gave Sega a pattern to follow going forward. 2 years and a few more super scalar games later, and Sega has decided that their big games for 1987 would be 2 vehicle-based super scalar games. One of those was Afterburner, which has already gotten a PC Engine port, and then there was Outrun. Outrun copied a lot of what made Hang On work as a video game, but expanded it greatly. The technology had improved to make the game look a lot better, and they figured out a few tweaks to the formula. The most recognizable cabinet version of Outrun, of course, looked like a car, and it would turn a little bit as you spun the wheel, and that steering wheel would push back against you turning it, plus shake a bit when you went off the side of the road. Outrun was a monster hit in arcades. It wasn't just the best-selling game at the time of its release, it was Sega's most successful arcade game, period. It redefined what racing games were, and everyone else had to catch up. Super scalar games like Outrun were incredibly difficult to port to home consoles. The systems didn't have anywhere near enough power to move that many sprites around and scale them in a way that looked smooth. But the PC Engine has had a few ports of these super scalar games that were technically impressive. So how did Outrun turn out? Well, it's an obvious step down, but that ain't bad. The motion of objects is a bit jumpy. There's a lot of flicker, and some segments of the course are a lot worse than others. Everything is significantly scaled down, and the traffic on the road isn't as well defined as it is in the arcade version. But all of those things are compromises that a player in 1990 would be perfectly happy with. The PC Engine port seems to have been done by Denpa Shinbusha, a computer magazine publisher who had a small software division that ported arcade games to computers. In 1991, that software division would get spun off as Micomsoft, who are best known for a line of high-end console accessories. Things like the fancy joysticks or an RGB converter. I believe that this is their last work on the PC Engine, but since they went uncredited pretty much everywhere, it's a bit hard to be sure. Outrun is a race against the clock through 5 stages. You're driving a bright red Ferrari Testarossa convertible, and the game vaguely resembles a cross-country race. You're racing a clock that's counting down as you drive the car, and at the end of the first 4 legs, the road forks. You pick a path, and then there's a new checkpoint as the next leg starts, which replenishes the timer. Go fast, drive through varied scenery, pass cars on the way. That's all there is to it. Maybe the most important decision to make in the game is made in the first second. Which soundtrack you want. 3 options, and every single one of them an all-time great. Okay, the choice of path you make at the end of every leg matters a little bit, since generally speaking, the paths to the left are easier than the ones to the right. Though to be honest, I don't see that much difference, particularly in this PC Engine version where the course layouts have been tweaked. Like I mentioned, everything has been shrunken down quite a bit. The turns aren't as dramatic, the hills aren't as steep or as long, and there are fewer curves. Admittedly, this isn't something you'd notice unless you are an Outrun expert, but as somebody who has reached all 5 endings in the arcade, I noticed. That smaller scope also affects the traffic quite a bit. You're going to find yourself boxed in a lot in this game, and the cars are a lot more willing to zoom across the entire road to block you. I think I had to ride my brake more in this version of Outrun than any version of Outrun I've played. The cars also travel a lot closer to your speed, which just makes it more likely for you to get blocked. A weird aspect of that is if you do bump into a car, you're probably going to be traveling at close to the same speed, and it'll result in you getting bumped and slowed down rather than crashing. There are multiple difficulty levels available to you. Setting the difficulty to easy reduces the number of other cars on the road and makes them less aggressive. An option menu is also where you can turn off the engine sound and the squealing of tires if you just want to listen to the awesome music. Something helpful to be aware of is that the area in which cars can hit each other is a lot smaller than the graphic makes it appear. That is something you can take advantage of, but passing through a quarter of a car feels awfully tense. When it comes to Japanese players, the PC Engine version of Outrun was extremely well received. It was the best-selling game of the 1990 holiday season for the PC Engine. And to this day, debate rages whether or not the PC Engine or the Mega Drive version is the better home port of Outrun. Personally, I think the Mega Drive version runs a little bit smoother, while the additional color depth makes the PC Engine version look a little bit better, but really it's impressive that they're even in the same ballpark. My personal feeling on the PC Engine version is that it's a solid port for 1990, and unfortunately, it suffers in comparison to what followed. You can play the PC Engine version and go, wow, this turned out better than I expected. And then after you've done that, you go play the Saturn version, or the 3DS version. That's just the way it shakes out for these old games sometimes. It was impossible to do a really great port of Outrun at this point, so later versions wind up outdoing it. And they didn't add anything to the game, so there isn't really a special reason to come back to this version. In 1990, I would have been all over this port if it had been released in the US. Now? Well, right now I'm gonna go play the 3DS port.